In the quiet village of Willow's Bend, where the river curved like a gentle arm around the houses, lived an old lantern maker named Elias. His hands, once strong and steady, now trembled with the weight of 82 years. But every evening he still lit the lanterns along the wooden bridge that connected the village to the world beyond. Elias had a granddaughter, little Mira, who was 6 years old and full of questions. She followed him every dusk, her small boots splashing in puddles, her voice bright as the flames he coaxed to life. "Grandpa, why do you light them even when no one crosses?" she asked one rainy autumn evening. "Because the light is a promise," he replied softly, his voice like dry leaves, "that someone, somewhere, is never truly alone." Mira didn't fully understand, but she loved the way the warm glow turned the rain into falling stars. She especially loved the last lantern, the one her grandmother had painted with tiny white flowers before she passed away when Mira was a baby. That lantern never left its hook at the far end of the bridge, even when the others were brought in for repair. One stormy night, the river rose angrily, swallowing the banks. The bridge groaned under the weight of the water. The villagers gathered with worried faces, knowing the bridge might not hold until morning. Mira's parents were away, visiting family in the next town, and she stayed with Elias, clutching his worn coat. "Grandpa, what if the lights go out?" she whispered, pressing her face against the window as thunder shook the glass. Elias looked at her, and for the first time in many years, his eyes filled with something deeper than sadness. He remembered the night his wife, Lena, had grown ill. The doctor couldn't reach them because the bridge had flooded then too. Lena had held his hand and said, "Promise me you'll keep the lanterns burning, Elias, even when I'm gone, so our Mira will always find her way home." He had promised. But that night, watching the river threaten to take everything, he felt the old ache return. "I have to go fix the last lantern," he told Mira. "The one with the flowers. It's the most important." Mira's eyes widened. "But Grandpa, it's dangerous." He smiled, the lines on his face softening. "Some promises are worth the rain, little one." Elias took his old coat and stepped into the storm. Mira watched from the window, her heart hammering like the rain on the roof. She saw his hunched figure move slowly across the bridge, the wind whipping at him. Halfway across, he slipped. Mira screamed and ran outside without thinking, her bare feet flying over the wet wood. "Grandpa!" She reached him just as he was pulling himself up, clutching the painted lantern. Rain streamed down his face, mixing with tears. "Mira, you shouldn't be here," he said, voice breaking. "I promised to," she answered, though she had never said the words aloud before. She helped him steady the lantern. Together, their 4 hands, trembling old and small and brave, hung it back on its hook and lit the wick. The little flame fought the wind at first, then grew steady, glowing with the white flowers painted long ago. The light reached across the dark water like a quiet song. The bridge held that night. Years later, when Mira was 32 and the world had pulled her far from Willow's Bend, she returned, one rainy autumn evening, with her own 6-year-old daughter, little Lena. Mira had left the village at 18 to study in the city, chasing dreams of becoming a teacher. She had built a life there, busy streets, tall buildings that blocked the stars, and nights lit by neon instead of flame. She married a kind man who understood her quiet ways, and together they welcomed Lena. But the farther Mira traveled, the more she felt something tugging at her heart, like an unseen string tied to that old wooden bridge. The village had changed. New roads cut through the hills where wildflowers once grew unchecked. Streetlights now hummed along the riverbank, cold and efficient. The old timber bridge had been reinforced with steel and concrete after a bad flood a decade earlier. Yet it still carried the gentle curve that Mira remembered. Progress had come, but it hadn't erased everything. Mira parked her car near the bridge just as dusk settled in. Rain fell softly, the same steady rhythm she had once splashed through in her little boots. She lifted Lena from her seat, wrapping the child in a warm coat, and together they walked hand in hand toward the far end of the bridge. The painted lantern was still there. It hung on its familiar hook, weathered by time. The white flowers her grandmother had brushed on decades ago were faded now, their edges soft and blurred like an old watercolor. The metal frame showed spots of rust, yet the lantern itself looked cared for. Someone in the village had been tending it all these years. A small plaque beneath it, one Mira had never seen before, read simply, "For Elias." The light he kept burning. Mira's throat tightened. She reached into her bag and pulled out the small tin of matches she had carried all the way from the city, just in case. Her fingers trembled the way her grandfather's once had. Lena watched with wide, curious eyes, raindrops catching in her lashes. "Mama, why are we stopping here? There are lights everywhere now, big ones that don't need matches." Mira knelt beside her daughter, the wooden planks cool and damp beneath her knees. She struck the match. The flame bloomed, small and brave against the rain, and she touched it to the wick. The lantern responded slowly at first, then steadied, casting its familiar golden glow across the bridge. The painted flowers seemed to come alive again in the light. "Because this one is different, my love," Mira said softly. Her voice carried the same gentle cadence her grandfather had used with her. "This lantern was lit by my grandpa Elias every single evening, even when the storms came, even when no one was watching. He told me the light was a promise that someone somewhere is never truly alone." Lena tilted her head, studying the flame. "Did he light it for you?" Mira smiled through the tears gathering in her eyes. "He did, and for your great-grandmother too. On the night the river almost took the bridge, I ran out into the storm to help him. I was scared, but I held his hands while we lit this very lantern. It kept burning all night, and the bridge held." She pulled Lena closer, resting her chin on the girl's damp hair. In the quiet glow, memories flooded back unbidden. The smell of wet wood and pipe tobacco. The warmth of Elias's trembling hand on her shoulder. The way he had whispered stories of her grandmother while the rain sang around them. For years, Mira had carried those memories like a hidden lantern inside her chest. Through university exams, through lonely city nights, through the fear of becoming a mother herself. Now, standing here with her own daughter, the circle felt complete. Lena reached out a small finger and gently touched the edge of the lantern. "Can I help light it next time, Mama?" Mira's heart swelled. "Every time we come home, we will. And one day, when you're older, you can tell your own children why it matters." They stayed until the rain eased, and the lantern shone steady and sure. As they walked back across the bridge, Mira glanced over her shoulder. In the golden circle of light, she could almost see him. Elias, old and bent, but standing tall in spirit, smiling at her with that quiet pride. She felt his hand on her shoulder again, warm and steady, as if he had never truly left. Love, she realized, doesn't fade with time or distance. It simply learns to shine through the rain, waiting patiently on an old bridge for the next pair of small hands to carry the flame forward. And in Willow's Bend that night, the painted lantern burned brighter than all the electric lights combined. Moral lesson: the greatest lights we leave behind are not the ones that burn the brightest, but the ones we keep burning faithfully, even when no one seems to be watching. This story teaches that love is a promise passed from hand to hand, across time, distance, and even death. Elias's simple nightly ritual of lighting the lanterns wasn't just about illumination. It was about presence, hope, and showing the people he loved and those he might never meet that they were not forgotten or alone. Key lessons woven into the tale. Consistency matters more than grandeur. One small flame, tended with care through storms and years, can hold an entire bridge and an entire family together. Promises rooted in love outlive us. Elias kept his word to his wife, and Mira carried it forward to her daughter. What we do out of love becomes a legacy that guides the next generation. In life's storms, be someone's lantern. Whether it's showing up in the rain, holding trembling hands, or simply keeping a light on, our presence can be the reason someone else finds their way home. True light is shared and passed on. Electric lights may be brighter and more modern, but they lack the warmth and story of a flame tended by human hands and human hearts. Ultimately, the lantern in the rain reminds us, don't wait for the world to notice your light. Just keep it burning, for the ones who come after you and for the ones still finding their way through the dark. That quiet, faithful glow is how love becomes eternal. Do you think modern life, phones, busy schedules, bright electric lights, makes it harder or easier to keep these kinds of heartfelt promises? What legacy of love do you want to be remembered for? Send this to someone who needs to keep the light burning. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If this story touched your heart, please like if you believe love and promises outlast storms. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more heartwarming stories. Comment below. Who is your lantern in life?